Next, Renaud Laplanche, CEO of Upgrade, underscores the need for recurring revenue, cautioning against over-relying on one-time revenue products. David Haber, general partner at Andreessen Horowitz, and Jason Gus, CEO of Octane, focus on customer acquisition challenges and how you should think about product strategy across tech, credit, and capital markets. And Stephanie Kirkpatrick, CEO of Orum, zooms in on operational efficiency and reducing the time to value.
10 years of running Lending Club, was one of the first fintech, one of the first successful consumer fintech companies. So you can imagine like lots of lessons learned. Just to sort of take a few, a couple, I'd say. Maybe one in terms of like product strategy and one in terms of company building overall. So product strategy, I think what we learned at Lending Club was really the impact of recurring revenue, right? I mean, we started with a sort of product that's great for consumers. So personal loan that helps consumers sort of refinance their credit card and save on the cost of interest. So it's a really good product for consumers. But it's a product that generates a one-time revenue for the company, and it's not a frequent use product, right? You're not gonna refinance your credit cards every day or every month. It's a product you might use once every couple of years. So that creates a stream of revenue for a company that's really not as predictable as you'd like it to be. Because it's like, again, one-time revenue upfront. And so every quarter you need to go like earn new revenue, acquire new customers. And so when we took Lending Club public, that was really the one of the key sort of short thesis was, hey, this company needs to go earn revenue every quarter. So at some point there's going to be a bad quarter. So I think that's obviously something we learned from and did differently at Upgrade.
In retrospect to your question, the wedge product that we started with was probably the wrong one. We started with term loans, which had a 1 to 3 year duration, that ranged from $10,000 in size all the way up to $1 million. So we had people borrowing on average about $150,000, primarily again for growth financing, really to, open up a new location or buy an important piece of equipment or, hire employees or refinance maybe, expensive credit card debt or merchant cash advance. That product had great unit economics, but had a very kind of limited, it was a very infrequent and very considered transaction. And so what happened was, and that ultimately the biggest challenge and the thing we didn't do particularly well, in my opinion, was find cost-effective ways to scale, customer acquisition and really find people. We didn't have a unique advantage in finding people at that transactional point of intent, right? You think small businesses, and it is a very large population, but getting in front of that small business owner at the specific point in time when they need a $150,000 loan to open that new location, and with a relatively, our prices were pretty upmarket, fairly low interest rates, which meant that the sort of credit box was fairly narrow. And so the funnel really narrows to a very specific point in time, both that somebody meets your credit, criteria and needs that is ready to borrow $150,000 in that moment to open that new location. And so the cost of acquiring and getting in front of the customer at that specific point in time was very challenging. And so I think a lot of the lessons of the last 5+ years in fintech were, and a lot of the successes we've seen were people who started with a financial product, or honestly, ideally software, some sort of wedge that has near 100% approval rate. So ideally, anybody with a credit card can become your customer. If it's not software, it's a financial product like a checking account or a debit card or even a credit card where, the vast majority of people who apply, you can approve. And then you build this sort of much larger user base, understanding their kind of financial history, their financial profile, and then layer in higher LTV products over time, understanding both the transactional intent and their approvability. It really informs kind of how I think about investing today, which is biased primarily towards fintech companies that lead with software, what I would call like a network, as opposed to leading with a financial product.
We are not as concerned with speed of sales process and sales cycle because what we are concerned with is certainty, that it's roughly this long and we can expect it to be within kind of a standard cycle. What we're more interested in is after the sales cycle, right? After the signature, what I call time to value. How quickly can you get them to do their first transaction? And the more that it used to be hundreds of days, even though our API integration is easy, there were many things that we didn't know that they'd have to build. We had no playbook, right? And as we've operationalized that internally and externally, that benchmark has fallen to, on average, about 50 days. So now we can predictably say, if you sign on August 1st, you'll probably be live in less than 60 days. And then we can better forecast when will revenue hit.
We've always had to sing for our dinner. We never got fundraising easily. And so our KPIs always need to be way better and super compelling in order for us to get every drop of capital into our business, because we weren't in one of these marquee markets where everyone's like, well, all you need is an idea and a paper and a good team will give you a ton of capital. That was never our story. And so the unit economics always had to work. There always had to be tons of margin. And so because of that, one of the mistakes I believe some fintechs made, now I think very few of them make this mistake, is in the early days, you'd have phenomenal technology, sometimes phenomenal credit, and then almost capital markets was an afterthought. But we got the joke early. We understood that the difference between good capital markets execution and bad capital markets execution could sometimes, depending on your asset class, be more impactful than having the best underwriting versus the worst underwriting. Now, of course, you need to have the two play together. Without terrific credit, you can't have good capital markets. And so we kind of always invested equally into those three elements: technology, credit, and capital markets from an early on. And that really helped us support our unit economics. And so relative to many of our fintech peers, we securitized earlier. We got rated AAA from S&P and Kroll. Very few fintechs ever achieve those milestones. But what they give you is they give you access to much more stable capital markets. So you're able to access markets in far more environments, and then also far cheaper capital.
You cannot ever scale up. Like I think 2 years later, as we were going through this management change within our team, I think we kind of got together and said, what are we good at? Right? Let's forget about what the companies are using us for. What are we good at? And we spent a lot of time. And now what we've done is we've basically really granularized it to a large extent. Right? We focus on 3 different industries: banks and fintechs, travel, and digital platforms. And within those, we power 7 use cases. And that's all what we do. Right? So what we want to be is category leader in these 7 use cases versus going and saying that, oh, I can do 20 different things, etc. And this shift over the last 2 years has led us incredible success because we suddenly found focus, which is very important as you get late stage.
In the experience of connecting your bank account with Plaid, there are a few pains. One of them, which we call the consent pane. The consent pane explains what's going on and it tries, without having things buried in terms of service, to be really clear with the user about what's happening. And then we have other screens where you log into the bank account and verify your phone number and your identity and all those things. And so we had done mocks of kind of futuristic versions of these experiences that we could do. And obviously the futuristic versions are very streamlined. So there are fewer steps and all those things. And so we did qualitative research with people about them, and we showed them the one that we thought would be the best, which is almost like you just connect your account with just one click, like super magical. And the qualitative feedback from people, once the experience got too easy, is that it was scary. And the feedback was like, this is my finances, and I expect there to be friction, and I expect it to feel like it has weight. And if you make the UX, instantaneous, like scans your face, connect your bank account, click once, it's jarring for people because it's so important. Like the thing they're trying to do, applying for a loan or like moving $10,000 from one account, it's so important that they expect it to be a little bit difficult. And they need that friction to feel like the weight represents the activity, the action that they're trying to do. And I just thought that was really fascinating for us, which is like, you realize you're not just optimizing for conversion, you're optimizing for feel. Like the feel of the thing has to represent the kind of action that people do.